Folks, we have more prospects to talk about who have made their top 30 visits to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The first prospect we're going to be talking about is Kansas State cornerback Julius Brents. He has had a top 30 visit with the Bucs. Now, this was reported by Pewter Report, specifically Scott Reynolds of PewterReport.com. And the first thing that you need to know about Julius Brents out of Kansas State is that this man has great length and size. He is 6'3", 198 pounds, a very big cornerback that basically is the perfect mold for an outside style of cornerback. I will talk about that in a little bit. But he did grade out very well with his overall production at Kansas State. He had 4 interceptions, 45 tackles, and 4 pass breakups in his senior season. He had an overall pretty solid combine with a 4.53 40-yard dash, a 1.57 10-yard split, a 41.5-inch vertical jump, and 11-foot 6-inch broad jump. Overall, pretty solid numbers for a cornerback of that size. Again, being 6'3", 198 pounds, you like the athleticism that was showcased there while at the combine. And he was compared to Tremaine Johnson by Lance Zierlein of the NFL Network, but there's a lot of comparisons that you can make. One such comparison is a cornerback that is already on the Buccaneers roster in Carlton Davis. I feel like they both have pretty similar size. They both play a very similar style of way. Of course, I also think of, when I do think of physical cornerbacks, Brandon Browner back with the Seattle Seahawks. So really, any big physical type of cornerback that you can think of is probably a reasonable comp to Julius Brents here coming out of Kansas State. Now, right now as it stands, Brents is projected as a second or third round player, and this would continue a trend of Jason Light and his front office staff of drafting secondary players in the second to third rounds in his drafts. You go all the way back to whenever Carlton Davis was drafted, when MJ Stewart was drafted. Obviously, that one didn't necessarily work out, but then you skip forward a little bit, you have guys like Jordan Whitehead. He was picked in the 4th round, I believe. Mike Edwards was a 3rd round pick. Sean Murphy Bunting, I believe, was a 2nd or 3rd round pick. Jamel Dean was a 3rd round pick, I'm pretty sure. I believe SMB was the 2nd round pick in that draft. Point being, Jason Light loves. Antoine Winfield Jr. was the 2nd round pick. Again, point being, Jason Light and his staff love to select secondary members in the 2nd and 3rd and sometimes even 4th rounds of their drafts. They are constantly reloading and stocking up those secondary positions, and some of them have certainly worked in the cases of Davis, Dean, Murphy Bunting, Whitehead, Antoine Winfield Jr., and sometimes they have not worked as well in the case of MJ Stewart. But I think if Brents were to be some type of 2nd or 3rd round selection for the Buccaneers, it would very likely have, well, I guess I should say not very likely, it would have a good possibility to work out in their favor. I do believe Brents is a very good player and will be a solid starting cornerback potentially for whatever team does draft him. And look, I will say this, I think that Brents is a very good fit for a Todd Bowles style of defense. Right now, Brents does figure to be a little bit more of a zone cornerback, and Todd Bowles' defense has utilized a lot of zone coverages in the past. Bowles does like to have more athletic, big, physical types of cornerbacks. That isn't to say that that's the only type of cornerback he employs. We have seen a lot of smaller, more versatile defensive backs in the past. Again, I go back to Mike Edwards, Sean Murphy Bunting, Antoine Winfield Jr., although 2 of those 3 guys did play safety. Whenever you look at outside cornerbacks, specifically in this defense, you do look for bigger, more physical guys in Davis and in Dean, 2 guys who have gotten paid very handsomely by the Buccaneers in the past couple of off seasons. But I will say this. Right now, as it stands, Brent would be a good fit as an outside corner, much like in the case of Davis and Dean. But whenever you look at the defense, the Bucs already have 2 phenomenal outside cornerbacks in Davis and in Dean. So the question is, could Julius Brents play on the inside. Sean Murphy-Bunting, he's gone. He went to the Tennessee Titans. So there is a need at a nickel cornerback spot. Could that possibly be a situation where Brents could play on the inside? I don't necessarily see that making a ton of sense, which would beg the next question. Well, if he could play outside cornerback, do you move somebody else inside the nickel? Be it Jamel Dean, be it Antoine Winfield Jr., whoever it may be, is that a potential option? Maybe something to consider there, maybe something the Buccaneers would at least try out if they were to draft Brents. But let's say it was Antoine Winfield Jr., then it's either Brents isn't getting playing time as a second or third round draft pick, or he's starting over a Jamel Dean or Carlton Davis, which would not make any amount of sense considering those two guys are two of the highest paid players on the entirety of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they are the highest paid players currently in their secondary. So of course they're going to start, and they're good starters at that, so you wouldn't want to bench them. That's where the situation does get a little bit confusing. One option that could be available is a move to safety. Now, Lance Zierlein of the NFL Network wrote that he has the ability to move there if needed. And again, he is good in both zone coverage and in run stopping, a good fit for a Todd Bowles style of defense. Do the Bucs view him as a potential safety in this Bowles defense? You look at what they've been doing at the safety position already. There's been some names rumored. Sidney Brown has been a pretty popular name. They did just sign Ryan Neal, who is possibly going to be the starter. He is certainly going to compete. They didn't have to sign him to a very expensive contract, I believe. And of course, you have Antoine Winfield Jr. there, but I think that Brents is also very comparable to the size of Ryan Neal. They are both 6'3". I believe Neal is a little bit heavier. I believe Neal is at 210. Brents is at 198. But there is some potential there for Brents to possibly move back there, play a little bit of safety, be a stronger, bulkier type of safety compared to what we see in the past with some more smaller, shiftier, types of safeties in Antoine Winfield Jr. and in some other guys like Logan Ryan, Mike Edwards, among others. So who knows, folks? Let's see if the Buccaneers, if they are considering Julius Brents, which of course he was taken with he was given a top 30 visit, that definitely shows a good amount of interest. So it would be interesting to see if they view Julius Brents as a safety or as a corner. If it is a cornerback situation, I don't know. Just to be completely honest, it would be a little interesting to see if they did put him at cornerback, because don't get me wrong, the Buccaneers do need cornerback depth. They still need a number 3 cornerback like nobody's business, but Brents just doesn't necessarily fit what the Buccaneers might be looking for in a number 3 corner unless they would move Neal, or I guess I should say unless they would move Dean to a nickel type of role, or just have a really strong rotation with Davis, Dean, and Brents. Then it could make a little bit more sense, but as it stands right now, they definitely are looking for a guy who could play in the slot if they don't want to put Antoine Winfield Jr. there much this upcoming season. Another way it would make sense is if Brents plays safety. At that point, he would be competing with Ryan Neal for that strong safety position, which would be a very, very fun competition in my opinion, and that could make a lot of sense for this defense as well. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. I would love to hear it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope y'all enjoyed. And as always, folks, I'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.